Well, hello.
Hey everybody, still here, still with the rain. Chilly season in LA. Got another preview for you for this week.
Yes, I think, oh boy, we're now breaking it live. This is 28, so we're almost at 30.
Almost.
As you can probably tell by our uploads, we've only done one new movie so far, and it was pretty bad.
The thing is, it's been quite the season for TV shows. I mean, the excuse from the studios is that the strike has created quite a backlog on stuff. I'm willing to bet it's just that some of the films that have been approved, the quality hasn't been the best. But TV, though, is another story. So we previously recapped for you the final episodes of True Detective Night Country. Now we're
And also the premiere of Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
So we're still catching up on that because the whole season was released at once, but HBO is still doing the weekly release. So that's why we're starting with a new one.
New season of Tokyo Vice. We just had the nice fortune of comping a couple of preview episodes, and we just got through the pilot, the well, not the pilot, the season premiere
Premiere.
of season two. Some of you may remember Tokyo Vice. The first season premiered 2 years ago. It marked, for us, it was a special occasion because it marked the return of Michael Mann to television. Those of you who've been following us since the beginning know that we have been doing an extended study of Michael Mann's work, and TV is a big part of it. And we were excited to see him return with a show based on the true exploits of an American who worked as a journalist in Tokyo, Japan. And no
Jake
one,
Adelstein.
Jake Adelstein, no one expected a season two.
I
Just,
mean,
yeah.
just to be quite frank, I was completely shocked when I opened Facebook and I saw a trailer for Tokyo Vice Season 2.
Me too. I admit, me
I
too.
just thought it
Yeah.
was a show that came and went. It didn't garner that much public attention, and I thought that was that. And lo and behold, we now have season two.
It could be because, I mean, we need to look into it a bit, but I wouldn't be surprised that, even though the show didn't have succession numbers, it still garnered enough of a following to justify a second season. Because it is a really cool original show in the sense that, it's a crime series set in Japan, but from the POV of a journalist, which is rare. Usually, these shows tend to have the point of view of a cop, and of course, there are cops who are leading characters in this series.
Ken Watanabe
Ken
is
Watanabe,
finally given a role that isn't just a stoic
yeah,
samurai. Like he's actually
he's not
a
Ra's
very
al Ghul.
active voice. And but no, that's a great point because movies and TV shows that focused on journalists for the most part, you see them like maybe have two scenes with them doing work as a journalist and then they become like a Navy SEAL.
Yes, or they're side characters, right? Like they'll kind of be the companion to whoever we're following through a war zone, or for some, or for good reason. A lot of journalism films tend to focus a lot on politics or on some kind of whistleblower theme. Well, like one of Michael Mann's best movies, The Insider.
Or All the President's Men. Not a
Exactly.
Michael Mann film, but that's a good point. It's like journalists are only valid when they're unearthing the big scoop. They're cracking the big case, which, to be fair, Tokyo Vice has a bit of that. But as we just saw in the premiere episode, Ken Watanabe, who's a detective, tells Jake Adelstein, played by Ansel Elgort, well, yeah, you didn't crack the big case, but you're still a journalist and there's other crime to cover, so go do that.
And the season premiere continues that fun spirit of the first season in that
Well, literally, it takes place right after.
it picks up right where the last
Like,
season left off. Yeah.
so for our viewers who need a refresher, either rewatch the last episode or just watch the series and then jump into season 2, because I can guarantee you this show wastes no time
It's not
with
an
reintroducing characters. They kind of expect you to be familiar with who a lot of these people are already.
it's not an anthology series. It is one of those
It's
continuous
it's
narratives.
different
Yeah.
from True Detective for
Yeah.
sure. But the one, I mean, well, first and foremost, I really like how Jake, an American, and they did this in season 1. Usually, when there's a transplant in a new country, yeah, there's a little resistance to him at first, but then, oh, he's bringing his American ways, and that changes everyone's minds about how to be a journalist or how to work within the system. But what's great about this show is he's consistently told off for not following the rules at all.
And what's nice too is a lot of these shows, and I brought this up while we were watching, a lot of these shows and movies have a bit of, let's call it what it is. There's a bit of racist subtext in this idea that when an American finds themselves in a different country, somehow it's the people in that country that should learn from our customs, right? So we like to present ourselves in these shows and movies as, oh well, we're the more practical, simpler people, right? Like you guys are a little, you guys need to get over yourselves with these more archaic customs and traditions and codes of behavior. And you don't have that here. Here Edelstein is the one who has to keep learning to actually adapt and absorb this country that he himself has decided to take on as his home and as his career base. So that's really cool. That's very refreshing to see that in this season. And another thing I'll point out is it's nice to see how his tools as a journalist become his actual tools. He doesn't have to learn how to, beat people up or jump off a ship or handle a gun. It opens with a murder and a videotape and specific suspects and specific players, and he knows that the only real tool he has to take these people on is by using the evidence at hand to put specific names in an article that'll then get the story out there. In a lesser thriller, I don't know, he would then go train to become some kind of John Wick guy and go,
Precisely.
and
No,
go
and the
take
other thing
names.
which in the first season 2 and season 2 is a direct continuation adds as a very nice touch is, yeah, he doesn't get his way. There are plenty of times where the evidence falls through, sometimes just because, that happens, or deliberately,
No sabotage.
and he has to roll with the punches. There isn't
Exactly.
a case so far where he publishes the story without the evidence,
Yeah,
which
exactly.
other thrillers would do, like, oh, he took the shot and now people have to play by his terms. No, because that's not how the real world works.
And I also liked in this season premiere how they still don't go for the cliche of having to saddle him with a love interest, right? Like there's no that none of the cliches of, like, and again, in a lesser show he would end up with that colleague of his, the Japanese
Sure.
journalist
I
who
mean, that was
shows him the
part of
ropes. Yeah,
season 1, but things also fall through for
exactly.
him.
Well, yeah, so I mean, they're not stretching it out
Yes.
into some
Will they,
long thing.
won't they?
Yeah,
And they, you know what? They're also not romanticizing Japan. This isn't an Emily in Paris. This is
right.
actually showing you like the underground of Tokyo. For our friends who enjoy, video games and stuff, many of you might know the game series Yakuza or Like a Dragon, which takes place in Kamurocho. This show is kind of in that spirit, but less over the top. But it's dealing with that aspect of Japan, which, quite frankly, most Western audiences don't really want to see. We still want to see stuff like, from the Wolverine, that
Well,
kind of view of Japan.
it's exoticized, right? So it's kind of like a lot of movies and TV shows. It's like what Edward Said wrote about, right? In Orientalism, this idea that we keep seeing other places and other cultures through this kind of exotic lens, yeah, it. distorts and or overly romanticizes or even overly unromanticizes another society. And yeah, no, that's again, that's what's nice about the show. You get the sense that Edelstein is doing in Tokyo what a hard-boiled journalist would have to do in New York or in Buenos Aires or any other big city. It's just that he happens to be an American, and so he has to also learn what life in Tokyo is actually like. And that's cool because it breaks again that stereotype of he can't walk around this newspaper world saying, "Well, I mean, in America, we do it like this." you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, exactly. He's
Yeah.
not the hot shot. Now he does have friends,
Yeah.
but again, it's not doing the cliche thing to spoon feed Western audiences. It actually feels like it's a mature show that has a broad appeal without selling out. Now, this is just the first episode, but it does feel like a nice continuation.
It
As
starts
in,
out very
it
well.
doesn't feel like someone else took the reins of the show and then backtracks on what season one did.
On the contrary, you're right. Because on the contrary, not only does it not feel like a show that got taken over by some other showrunner or something, but funny enough, Michael Mann is still listed as executive producer, even though he doesn't direct the season premiere
You
this
know
time.
what? I was about to talk about that.
Mike, what?
I'm sorry, but the guy who directed this episode made the Michael Mann movie or TV episode that you did not do with Ferrari.
Yes, like we were just
We
sitting there.
kept pausing, like we saw The Insider,
The
we
end.
saw Collateral, we saw
We've been watching all his stuff for the last year, basically, and Ferrari was not it. But this one episode of the second season of Tokyo Vice somehow had everything that's good about Michael Mann in it without Michael Mann directing.
directing,
Uh,
unless he's directing under a pseudonym.
or he came in, took over, and still gave the original guy credit. I mean, I don't,
Who knows?
know.
It's not because it's not only the tint, but also the pace and the framing and the kind of dialogue. Like
The
I understand
atmosphere,
that,
yeah.
right, the dialogue is written how it is, but what I mean is the way shots are composed and the way things are edited. It can inject a certain rhythm into the written
Even
piece.
the music, the
Oh my
atmosphere.
god, it was like Elliot
Yeah,
Goldenthal, right?
the atmosphere, the music, the ambiance. It was absolute total Michael Mann, that classic man that some of you watching who are big cinephiles know from, yeah, Heat, Thief, Manhunter,
Manhunter.
Public Enemies, even the better parts of Black Hat. Like it's all Miami Vice is another good one to rep. Collateral, all those movies
There's a club scene. It's like it looks I mean, it's almost like lifted from
from
Collateral. I
Collateral.
mean, it's like
There's a couple of night shots that could have easily been either Heat or Thief, and somehow, or Miami Vice, and somehow none of that was in Ferrari.
we kept
Mike,
saying that. We were like, Mike, we I would literally pause the episode, and I would just go, Mike, come
yeah,
on,
Mike, come
come
on, man.
on,
We know you're out there. We need to see you. We need to see you on the
on the straight and
screen.
narrow.
Yeah, like come on, man. So yeah, fantastic beginning for the second season. Again, it's nice to see HBO and Max putting Tokyo Vice out there. Great to see them celebrating this journalist's exploits. I still want to check out his book. I might actually check it out now that there's a second season out. It's under the same name for any of you interested who want to go also check
Hmm.
it out. It's also called Tokyo Vice. And of course, as happens with TV and movies, I'm sure they've exaggerated a bit or
Of
over
course,
dramatized a bit, taken a bit of license, as they say, with the
that
content,
that's part and parcel, right?
and yet it still feels authentic, like those scenes where he's writing out the article, he's arguing with editors about what to put in, what to keep out, what you need actual evidence for to justify inclusion in an article. That's still there, and that's really cool. I you know what, honestly, I full confession, I've never hung out with any yakuzas or been associated with the gangster
Hmm.
underworld, but it feels authentic. I mean, it feels like these are
It
actual
does.
criminals operating in this shadowy
Well,
subculture, you know.
there's a character called Chihara. I'm not going to spoil too much about what happened last season, but first of all, the guy who plays him, that is like OG cool.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
He
yeah,
has
yeah.
the swagger of the Yakuza boss, but it you can tell he's dangerous. Like without again, I've seen season one, but going into season two, if for whatever reason you haven't seen it, he has the kind of presence where you're like, oh, this guy, he doesn't play.
Yeah, no, no, they all well the cat because the casting is also pitch perfect. I mean, the casting of this show is never off. Of course, the leads they're all great, but even the little side characters, the characters
Oh,
are kind of
the
thrown
little rat
in.
weasel.
Yeah, no, exactly. Just the little these little side characters that are thrown in to color the background really feel like what you would, I guess, call the dregs of society, right? Like the people that just had the bad luck of coming up in the lowest forms lowest sectors of society, and they've been sucked into this criminal underworld, and it's really convincing. But you know what, they're not written like what I liked is they're not written like cartoony villains either.
Yes.
They are written like
Well,
a
like
lot
people.
like people, and like a lot of the best gangster shows or the recent crime shows like Narcos Mexico, they also operate like the tragic, darker version of the business world,
Yes.
right? Like if these guys ever went legitimate, they could run a Fortune 500. But it just looks more fun to be a yakuza.
Well, that's the thing. They kind of do.
Yeah,
That's how they're framed. Narcos Mexico, which ironically I think is better than the original Narcos. I don't know what happened. I thought it was going to be infinitely worse, but it's actually great because you learn about Mexican politics and how these cartels
yeah,
happen. Anyway,
better than Griselda too.
ugh,
That was
but that's
that,
what I
that,
liked about
that,
Tokyo Vice. It's
yeah.
again, you get the cool style, but also you examine these guys like well, businessmen. I was about to say shady businessmen, but that line is like
Oh, so yeah, no. Well, that's what's fun about when this material is well written. That it is a fine line between legitimacy
and
and
criminality.
criminality. It's actually not that much of a divide. It's like in the Godfather movies when Michael keeps promising his family they're going to go legitimate. I mean, what does that really mean? He's not. I mean, he's the only difference is in one department he might just kill less people, but but he's still going to be a ruthless cutthroat. So you get a lot of that in Tokyo Vice. And then you get nice updates on what's been going on with the other characters. Was the blonde that was
Samantha,
you know
she is not
she's
having a good time.
nope, she's having quite the breakdown in the season premiere. Still haunted by what happened to
Her friend,
her
her
Eastern
Slavic
European friend.
friend, um, our Ken Watanabe's character, the detective,
Him
he's
too, yeah.
also going through it, but he's also taken almost fingers.
Oh, well, yeah, he's basically taking names by the end of this episode. And it's cool because I think they're playing with this idea that because of his frustrations with everything that's been going on, he's starting to leave, he's starting to cross that dangerous line of being a man of the law and then crossing into vigilante territory, right? Like he's starting to
Yes,
become that kind of character, so much darker than what was going on in season one, which is great because the story is evolving in convincing but fresh ways. So you're not getting a repeat of the last season. You're not getting
precisely.
the plot points recycled or anything.
So I'm very curious. I'm very excited to keep going. HBO, I like this release just as a True Detective Night Country is starting to wrap up. They're like, all right, guys, here's another one.
There's
So to
another
keep you
one.
going. So
Nice diet to keep you. You know what? Big studios. They're leaving in the dust, guys. They're leaving in the dust. If I had to choose between watching more True Detective and Tokyo Vice or what
Madam Web.
Madam Web, there's just no competition. I'm not going to drop my dough for you know what? As much as I like Bob Marley, I don't know if I'd rather go watch the new movie than sit down for another few hours of True Detective and Tokyo Vice. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, HBO putting out a lot of good stuff. And from we were just discussing this right now. There's more good stuff coming this year, too. We're very much looking forward to the Sympathizer and a lot of other miniseries that are in the
Which
on the
you
shelf.
shall see us give impressions for, because, like we said, I mean, great TV, and we like to watch it. Gives us an incentive to actually properly sit down and watch it, and then record our impressions. So, look, we're eating good now between True Detective, which we just finished,
Tokyo
Tokyo
Vice
Vice,
season 2, which
and
we just started.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which we will
Good
share our
stuff.
thoughts. Again, we need to discuss how we want to break up discussing it, but just a wee little thing for you guys. It's surprisingly good.
And I oh, and hey, Halo season 2.
Boy, shut your ass. No, ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah, no, I'm being more than sarcastic with that one because even in TV, you still got a couple of stinkers. So thank you everyone for joining us for this little preview of Tokyo Vice
We'll leave
season
our
2
usual
season
links
premiere.
down
Yes.
below and keep up to date.
Yep. Send us your comments. Please like us. Please share us. And also follow us on Letterbox.
Yes,
So follow our letterboxes where you can also catch up with the other stuff that we watch that we might not have time to include here because we're always watching stuff. The classics, new stuff. You can see us comment on, some oldies but goodies that we, take the time to watch when we've got some free time, and hopefully it'll help you build up a nice checklist, a nice bucket list for this 2024.
indeed. Till next time, guys. Take care. Peace.